Do you want more harmony in your paintings and fewer struggles during the process? In this video, I'm sharing how creating a colour palette makes painting so much easier and more enjoyable. Hi there, I'm Janine. I'm an artist and I share my creative journey on this channel. Creating a colour palette before I start a new series is probably a hangover from my design days. Having a few colours you know you want to use throughout your paintings means you have to make less decisions during the painting process, and it frees up your mind to concentrate on other things. Starting with a limited colour palette also means that you can be sure that your colours are harmonious. I've got this little treasure trove of a book which is all colour swatches. So it's got a lot of pages where I've mixed different colour combinations, or where I've just experimented with swatches, or where I've swatched new materials that I got all different colours. But what I do actually look at most of the time are these pages where I mix usually 3 primary colours and white, sometimes also a dark neutral. So for my last series I used magenta yellow oxide and phthalo blue, which I really liked, but looking at my mood board, I made a video where I create that mood board and find all my inspiration and compile that into kind of a broad concept. You can watch that video down below if you want. And that's got a lot of very, very earthy tones and also a lot of blues. So I think this won't quite work exactly for what I'm planning this time. So what I thought, I actually came across this page quite in the front here, where I mixed cadmium, yellow deep, burnt sienna, black and white. And these are very, very earthy. I like them, but I would also like some sort of blue, not just black. So I think I might actually, for my red this time, use a burnt sienna. And for the yellow, I have used a cadmium yellow deep here, which is a bit brighter, but I've been enjoying using this yellow oxide. So these two are very, very muted. So I do want quite kind of a bright blue to brighten that up. So I'm going to see if I want to use either ultramarine or phthalo blue, or even switch any of my red and yellows. I've got a feeling I might want to switch the burnt sienna for a stronger red, but we'll see. Start with the ultramarine, because I've just squeezed that out. Also getting out some white. And I usually do it with quite with a system. And I have a couple of videos where I do that, but I think today, at least to start with, I'm just going to paint a few random swatches, and this way I can write down the combinations I'm using on the page. I'm only doing it with my finger so I don't have to wash my brush, and I'm lazy. I'm going to do both of the primaries together first, and once I've decided which colours I prefer, which colour combination I prefer, I can then go and do it a little bit more systematic, and then write down which colours are actually combined, whereas now I'm just making a few random swatches. The thing with this burnt sienna is this is the Rowney one, and it's not got a lot of coverage. It's quite transparent, but I do work a lot with transparent layers, so it's probably not that bad. Might not be a problem. I have used burnt sienna and ultramarine in a series before. I did use a different yellow, and I really liked the colours in that series. That was the Guiding Light series, if you want to have a look on my website. I do like a little bit of bright colour in my paintings, so maybe this is too muted. They're nice colours, but I think I might be missing a proper red. Let's see. Let's try it with the phthalo blue. The difference between the ultramarine and the phthalo blue is one's a cool blue and the other one's a warm blue. And which one's cool and which one's warm is very much a debate in the art world. Personally, I call ultramarine blue a warm blue and phthalo blue a cool blue. Basically, one's leaning more green, the phthalo blue, and one's leaning more red, the ultramarine. Just looking at the colours next to each other, I prefer this one to this one. This just got a little bit more punch. I've got a feeling I'm going to switch out the burnt sienna. We'll see. I think so far these slightly greener blues are looking a bit more like what's on my mood board. And because it's more of a complementary colour, the green and the red, I feel like this actually goes better together than these. Which is a surprise, I did not expect that, but it does make total sense. Yeah, I do prefer that actually, at least for this purpose of what I can see on my mood board. With this, I think I need to switch out the burnt sienna. I've now got a cadmium red deep hue, which is fairly neutral, but it's, I think, slightly tilting towards the cool side of the reds. So I'm going to try that with the yellow oxide, and I think I'm going to try the ultramarine blue for now. I have to see that I don't get confused with all my different blues especially. Let's get a new page. And there's no reason why you couldn't use both a burnt sienna and the red, but I just like to limit my palette to just one of each type of primary, so some sort of yellowish tone, some sort of yellow reddish tone, and some sort of bluish tone. Now, I do really like those colours. Question is, do they go with my mood board? I really like this kind of greyish dark blue. And I haven't used this deep cadmium red before much, but I do really like it actually. The last few times I always used magenta, and I was really surprised the first time I mixed my colours with magenta because it makes them really vibrant, which is really interesting, but it's not what I want to achieve at the moment. And you could just spend hours mixing colours, and I find that quite a lot of fun. But you can also waste a lot of time doing that. It's not really a waste of time, is it? Because you learn about colour if you experiment with colour. So if you're not very happy with your colours, or you don't feel very comfortable using colours, I think this is a really great exercise. Just take in different combinations of 3 colours and some white and mixing those and see what colours they can create. To try and mix a few more neutral shades. I really like those colours. I really like that. I need to compare them to the ones on the previous page, but I think I like that. So the thing I'm really looking for is light blues, which are on my mood board, and the warm earthy tones. For, you see these here, these colours, those 3 especially, maybe with this, that's pretty much what's on my mood board. This is maybe a touch more purple, but I really like that. Yeah, I much prefer these colours to these colours. Even though technically these probably look more like what's on my mood board, I do like this. I think I might also try the yellow oxide cadmium red deep, and then instead of the ultramarine, I'll try the phthalo blue. because I do like those more greeny blues here. I like those too, but I want to see them side by side. I could also switch my yellow, but I really like this one. I don't want to just endlessly mix all the possible variations. I do want to kind of also go with my gut, which is the beauty of intuitive painting, which I really enjoy. So I also enjoy picking colours intuitively, while also making slightly rational decisions like, does it go with my mood board? Or do I have a nice variation in colours? Is there cool tones and warm tones? Because they complement each other really nicely. But that also all is influenced intuitively, because if I make my colours work with my mood board also kind of emerged intuitively. Right then, let's talk in more painting. Some really nice neutrals. So far, a little bit cool. And you see, I'm mixing the more neutral colours by combining all three primaries I'm using. And I also like to not just mix the red and the yellow together. I will always mix a tiny bit of the blue in as well to tone it down a little bit. These are really nice aubergine colours, which I seem to be drawn towards a lot lately, even though I don't really like purple. I do like certain types of purple. This, oh no, this is, I was going to say, this almost looks like an ultramarine, and I did accidentally go into the ultramarine. It's fine, we can paint over that. I want to see the kind of light blues that I can mix. I think this might be going too cool this direction. Maybe it's because I've only been doing these purples and greens mainly. Let's try a few more with yellow in. I do like them, and I have done a bit more variety in here, especially with that green. And I've got the same orange and red, so I should be able to do this kind of orange as well. Got some down here. Let's just try a couple of oranges before I make my decision. Yeah, I do like these. These are very similar, obviously. And the question is really the blues. I think purely intuitively, I prefer this one. I haven't mixed any greens on here. Let's just mix a couple of greens with the ultramarine. Even though I probably won't use a lot of green.
If you like this video, consider subscribing.
This is actually a really good colour that reminds me of the sea. Yeah, I think I prefer this one. So now I want to be a little bit more systematic with how I choose the colours that are my favourites. So I'm going to mix this colour palette, the yellow oxide, cadmium red deep and ultramarine, and little bits of white. I might even include some sort of dark neutral like a burnt or a raw umber, but we'll see. I think I'll just start with these and mix them more systematically. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Burnt sienna in other brands, like I think the Liquitex one is a lot richer, so that might be better if I wanted to go that route, but I think for now I'm just going to do this. Basically have like a burnt sienna here. I just wanted to show you a quick little tip so I don't get confused with the colours that I want to use. I'm going to use the leftover paint and smear it on some sketchbook pages that I can then layer over later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by mixing two primaries together. So I'll start with the yellow oxide and the cadmium red. The way to systematically do that is to start with mainly red with just a touch of the yellow, and then I'll work my way up to more and more yellow into my mix. But I'm not doing that with precise measurements. It's more by eye, because I don't need precise measurements for this purpose. And then I also want to add a little bit of white so I can see what the mixes look like in a lighter version. And then I'm going to do the same with the yellow oxide and the ultramarine. I'm just wiping my brush on the scrap panel in between so I don't have loads of red on my brush. So again, I'm taking some yellow oxide with just a touch of ultramarine for now. And then I keep adding a little smidge. I'm gonna also do that with the white. And then, of course, I'll also do it with the cadmium red deep and the ultramarine. Start with cadmium red, just a touch of ultramarine. And then add more and more. And now is where the interesting part for me begins, because I will probably rarely use them this clean, saturated, only two primaries together. I'll probably mix like I did earlier in the little test swatches. I'll probably mix all three of them in different ratios. So I'm going to do that without white first, down here, and then I'll mix some where I add white as well. Again, I'm not noting down how much I use of what. I can usually kind of tell, and if I want to mix that colour again, I'll just add a little bit of each, and then eventually it'll turn into that colour. So that's not a big deal for me. And I think you get the idea, so you don't have to watch me do this with loads of different variations, but I will show you at the end the colours I have. I've now selected a few colours that I think go really well with my mood board, that are kind of similar to what's on the mood board or complement it really well. So I've got, I think, a nice warm orange. I might even use the clearer one here, the more saturated one, because I can always tone it down. And I've got a few kind of earthy tones. And I really like this actually. This light green, that's kind of a sea green. And then a few lighter bluey, grey, green hues. And I also like this neutral, pinky. It's kind of a pinky neutral, a light. I always like to include a light colour as well. And this, I really like this lilac. I think it's not on my mood board as such, but I think it would complement the colours really nicely. So what I want to do now is paint larger swatches of the colours that I've kind of pre-selected. So I'm going to have to mix them all from scratch again, but I think I can sort of make them similar. It doesn't have to be 100% the same colour. And I always want to write on the back what the colours are that I have mixed in here, so I can refer back to it. Again, I'm not really adding proper quantities, just the colours that are in the mix. It's a bit too much red here. I made some larger swatches of the colours that I really liked. So they're roughly the same. They're not 100%. It's just this kind of greyish green. And I also like this darker green here. And I found that this kind of mauvey purple lilac is really interesting. It might be a nice... I don't usually use a colour like this, so I thought this would be interesting to bring in. This is a very nice warm red, kind of a muddy yellowish neutral. And now this is again kind of mauvey colour, a bit less lilac than this one and a bit darker. I really like this one. And this is a very vibrant orange. I think I also like having some sort of pops of colour with all the more muted colours than this one. I probably want it even a little bit more brown than this one, and this one probably looks more like this aubergine colour here. I think I'd probably go a bit more brown, and then this is kind of a light neutral, looks a bit pinky here, and this muddy light green that I really liked. Now if I look at the colours with my mood board, just trying to kind of gauge what goes well. These greens are kind of like that green down here, a bit of an earthy green. So like that. Then those brighter red and yellows, kind of this leaf and these dried flowers, I really love those. And this also probably more like this pebbly colour, and I think the mauvey and the lilac colour also go really nicely with that. And then again, this is basically the dark brown in these dried flowers or plants, and then just a nice neutral. Again, this is a bit pinky, and this light green goes really nicely with these kind of greens down there. So I think these colours I've selected go really nicely with my mood board. Now I do want to pre-mix a few of those in like a slightly larger quantity, and I have already done that a little bit. I've prepared some of these. I'll show you in a minute. So I think all of these I would like to include in my new series that I'm going to start working on. But I do want to batch mix a few of these, and I don't really want more than 6 to 8 colours for that. So like I said before, I like to use a couple of light colours and dark colours, and also some medium value and a nice range of colours. So I think for the light colours, I want to go with these two, the light green and I'm probably going to mix it a little bit more neutral than this. This looks very pinky. And for the dark colours, I'll probably go with this one. And I was thinking about this dark green, but I can always mix that on the fly if I wanted. I think I'm not going to use very much green. But I do really like this mauvey colour, so I think I want to go with that. And then I really love this punchy orange. I think that would be really interesting to add into the mix. And then of course I want some kind of blue. I found it. I forgot about this one. So this is the blue that I want to choose. So these are the colours that I want to pre-mix. Let's have a look on my mood board, just to double check. They're not exactly these colours, but I think they go really, really well with it. And they feel quite fresh. I do tend to always pick the same kind of colours. Like I've definitely picked a colour like this in pretty much all of my series. I definitely had one of these, kind of similar, and always have a light neutral. And I also had a light blue, so these are very similar. This is kind of new for me, this mauvey colour, but I love these ones as well. So these ones I'm not going to pre-mix, but I will keep these cards handy while I'm painting, and then I can always mix these on the fly. So these will be a little bit easier. The ones I'm going to pre-mix will be handy for me to just dip my brush in and go. And I can always change them a little bit. And these ones, if I feel like a painting needs some of that, I can just mix that up quickly, because I did write on the back what colours are in there. It's pretty much all of the colours are in all the colours. So yeah, this is my colour palette for my new series. And I just wanted to show you these other colours that I've pre-mixed. I didn't mix loads of them because I do want to change them a little bit as I go. So I might have to remix some of them again. So I've got a light green, the kind of pinky neutral, I've got a lovely blue, the darker maroony brown. I think I need to make this a bit more brown, but it's fine for now. The orange and the mauvey colour. And then when I want, I can always add these into the mix. Pre-mixing a few colours doesn't mean I won't still mix from scratch while I'm painting. It just means that I can grab a colour and stay in the flow when I don't want to stop to mix paint. But especially further in the process, when I want to be more specific with my colour choices, I mix more nuanced shades from scratch. Do you make a colour plan before you start, or do you find that too restrictive? Let me know in the comments. If you want to see a more methodical approach to creating your colour palette, click the link to the video in the description box. Thanks and bye bye!